Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of the fantasy art piece called My Surreal Nature. So today we're going to work on finishing the head, but before we go any further on the sides of the head, we are going to do the greens in the background. Okay, so I know I still have detailing and that to do in the face, but for now we'll let that be, so that we can get these nice greens in the background and a bit of the blue, and then I'll show you how easy it is to do the silhouettes of the trees. Okay, so let's see if I can zoom out a bit more so you can see a little bit more. It's not very straight, but this way you should see most of it. Okay, so let's remove this. We are going to do the background, and we are doing the background using pencils, not pan pastels. So I'll show you how we're going to do that. So we'll probably use and the pencils that we're using for this one, we're using Caran d'Ache pencils, so we're using the Pablos and the Luminance pencils. But so far I think I've only used the Pablos. I haven't even touched the Luminance ones yet. And I think, I don't know, we can get pretty far with the Pablos. Because it is a standard paper, it's easy to put light colors on top of darks. And usually the reason I like to mix the wax and the oil-based pencils is so that I can put the light wax-based pencils over the darker oil-based pencils. But when you're using this paper, which is the Meton's Touch standard paper by Canson, then you don't need to do that. The light colors still go over the top of darker colors regardless of whether it's wax over oil. So the rule for mixing wax and oil-based pencils is not the same on the sanded surface as what it is on watercolor paper. Okay, right, so you'll see my hands on the side because it's quite a big drawing. It's A2, so it's pretty big, so I need to have it sideways because otherwise I just can't fit it right. Okay, so these greens, let me get my reference up on the screen. Okay, and I actually have my reference on sideways so that I can, you know, get the angles and the shadows and everything right. So the most highlighted section is sort of over here. So the background's actually auroras. So we're going to use a very, very light green and then use some darker greens and blues towards the edges to create that aurora effect. And then we want to do that before we do the horns and the side of the fur, because usually you want to do the background first so that when you do the details in the foreground, you can place them nicely over the background. Peggy's trying to get on, so I'm just going to help her get on real quick. Let's go. Okay. Sorry, just bear with me for a second while I help Peggy out. Okay, Peggy, let me know if that's all good with you. If you need any further help, just tell me. Okay, then we can get back to this. See if we can increase the brightness a little bit. See the details a bit more. Better. Okay, yeah. So that should be a bit better. Right, now let's find the right green. Let's use, so for the lightest green, I think I'm going to use the lime green, number 231. Okay, and then paying attention to my reference underneath the horn here. We have this green. Now the saturation of colors in my reference is very, very bright. Because it is a fantasy art drawing, I wasn't afraid to make the colors extremely bright. So what I did for you guys in the email is I did send you the references that are relevant to what we're doing today. So you'll see the reference that I used for the horns. You'll see the reference that I used for the snow leopard. And you'll also see the background. And then you guys can feel free to use those images and try and do something similar, and then just make it slightly different so that it's more unique and more your own. Okay, now I do want to go in the trees as well, because the trees are going to be silhouettes over the background, so I still want to have that color in the trees. And it's easy to put the black over the top of the lighter colors. So hello everyone, I just jumped straight into that, didn't I? Hey Tracy, hey Maureen, hey Bob. Hey Diane, welcome! Joining in for the first time. Great to have you on here. With these live streams, like because there's not that many of you, you don't have to be as formal as in the other live streams that have a lot of people on there. So don't worry about capital letters or anything. Feel free to ask any questions. So because of the grittiness of the paper, it is going to eat through the pencils. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're going to use sanded paper, be prepared for your pencils not to last as long. So I can see this sort of goes to the side of the chin to about there. And this one sideways. And the aurora sort of goes across like that. So I'm just gonna get myself out the way while we do this. I'm sorry about any background noise. The grass is growing like mad. Like you have to mow every single week. So every day you hear someone mowing the lawn. Even though there's trees here, we still want to go over it with the green. Oh, have you got a toy, Taylor? I can't play now. My girls want to play. Poor things, they make me feel so guilty. Don't be afraid to extend the lighter green quite far. I mean, it's easy to put the darker colors over the top of it. And it is, you want to create like a smooth gradation of the greens. I think I want to go even further with the greens. I'm going to go right in the trees there. Okay, another area that's quite bright. Do we come to that later? I think we'll come to that later. It's an area that's a little bit further down. Okay, now we can use a bit of a darker green. So let's go with like a blue-green almost. So this color is beautiful. Malachite green, number 180. Okay, so and this is going to be at the top in the sky. And you're just going to lightly go over the lighter greens. You don't want to press too hard. It's going to be a gradual gradation. But once we blend that in with the solvent, then it'll be more obvious. It will be much easier to see. There's a nice sort of bluish tinge in here. And then this has a bit of a bluish tinge, which is going to turn into purple. A nice violet purple. And then this section's got more green in it than blue, so we won't use the blue-green for that. Okay, now we'll use more of a green. So we'll use dark green number 229. And then this dark green will go in over here. So this dark green, you can go over the color that you put down before, and you can extend it a little bit more into the lighter green. This is going to look much nicer the minute we blend with the solvent. It's always getting past the first few layers is always like the impatient part, I think, for anybody, because you really want to get to the point where you just make it look really smooth and bright. Okay, let's blend that in with a nice big brush. So I'm going to use this big brush, which is a number 6 West Art acrylic brush. I'm going to take my solvent and a piece of tissue so that I can dab off any excess. So let's go blend in the darker areas, see what the colors are really like. If the color moves around too much, then you've got too much solvent on there. So you want to have a little less solvent on there. And then you can see if it's too dry, then you just have to add a bit more. Sorry, you can't see that. Let's see now. And I'm just putting the tissue there so you can see. And then with the lighter colors, you probably want to go from the light colors sort of upwards into the darker colors. And that'll help create like a smoother transition. And then when you want it to be a little bit more details, take a smaller brush, because we want to get it smooth along the sides of the horns. Don't worry if it's not too if the line is not too perfect, because when we go over with the horns, over the color with the horns, we can define it and make it more detailed. We just don't want a gap between the horn and the background color, so you want to make sure you get close enough to the horn, and even if you go slight but over the horn, that's fine. Because we want this background to look like it is going in the right direction. We're not working around the horn, it must look like it's in the back. Okay, so you're going to keep working the background this way. Now, the sky still needs to be darker at the top, so this is just our first layer. So that's the idea of how we're going to work the background in. And then also with the light green, if it's not light enough, that's fine. We can add a white over the top to make it even lighter. So it's okay if you go slightly over the edge of the horn, because we can draw over that with the colors that we're going to use in the horn. Same here next to the ears of the cat. Those little hairs, as long as the background's there, it'll be easy enough for us to put the hairs over the top of the background to make sure that it appears like it is in the foreground, the cat, and that it's not, the edges aren't blending into the background. Diane, since you're new, it may as well just make sure you have all the extra information that we have. So we do have a Facebook page for the students on the student portal. If you haven't already, then send me the your email address that you use to log into Facebook. It has to be the email address that you use to log into Facebook, and then I can invite you to the private Facebook page just for our students. And that's where you would ask for any advice on your own drawings, or if you see something in the live streams that you like or you want more clarification on, then that's the place where you can do that. Okay, now let's see if we can get that to look a little bit smoother. So now I'm going to use little circular motions with very little solvent on the brush. try and remove those stripy bits to make it look a little bit more blended. If you find you can't move anything around, then still apply a little bit more solvent on your brush, but not too much. And you can continue to make that look smoother. We are still going to add more. This is just the first layer, but this is a good exercise to, in your first layer, to already try and get that smooth transition, also that doesn't look like a bunch of lines. You want the gradient of the color to, you know, follow into the next color nice and smoothly. And then even if you don't get it perfect, once you put the silhouettes of the trees in there, it's going to look really nice. And we also have stars in that we're going to put in here, so that will also sort of take away any flaws that where you can't get the transition to look entirely flawlessly smooth. I'm not too worried about this area because there's lots of trees here. So now with the next layer, when we add some dark blue and the violet over here, and a little bit of violet in these darker areas as well, and then like a white over the lightest greens, it's gonna make the real dark areas and the real light area, excuse me, have a nice contrast, and it'll just pop out a little bit more. So let's see. Let's use some of the Prussian blue, number 159. Okay, the top of the sky. Draw in little circular motions so that it doesn't end up looking like a line across. This blue is also over here. And over here. Add a little bit over here. And sure, even add a little bit in here, over here. Okay, let's blend that in with solvent, just to get a better look at it. So again, dip your brush, wipe off most of it. This tissue paper of mine is getting pretty saturated. Okay, and then we're going to blend that in. Little circular motions. See how nice that looks? It's looking nice and soft. Oh, that looks so nice. Blend that blue in. Excuse me, I just had to change the battery. Okay, now I'd like to really lighten up some of the areas in the green, so I'm going to use white. So white number 001. This area here is more highlighted. And here. Okay, now I want to make sure that my brush is very clean. So get all that dark blue off of it. And then you want to blend the white in. See how it's starting to look really smooth and pretty? Now, I think just to spruce up that green, just a bit more, I'm going to add yellow. So I'm going to use a little bit of the canary yellow, number 250. And just to add a bit more to these really bright greens. Look at that, that just makes it so much brighter. Really gonna help make it pop a little more. Oh, I think that's gonna really make the difference. Ah, that yellow just added that extra oomph to the picture. That looks great. Now I want to add the purple. Actually, let's go ahead and add the silhouette on this side. So one thing about my image is that my edge ends. My edge is actually over here. My edge of my drawing. So let's just use this one. Okay, so that section in there is actually within my border, so the silhouette of the tree is going to reach all the way to the horn, from the top here to the horn to the side. So I would like to use, what do I want to use? I think because I already have my greens down, let's use an almost black but not quite black. So let's use, oh no, this is black, we'll just use black. So this is ivory black. Number 496. And now I am observing my image. So next to the horn here, I can see some leaves or some branches. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just sort of follow along, and then I can see that from here, so about there to there. So I did lose my lines, but I mean, it's tree branches, so it doesn't have to be perfect. It goes quite close to the side of the horn here. And this is a bit bigger. And then it sort of goes to the side like that. Just gonna get my prints. So I have my image broken up into 4 prints. So this is the silhouette that I want to place in there now. So if you want to make it easier, if you have a print that's the same size, then have it next to the drawing. And you'll be able to tell a little easier. So there are quite a few gaps that you want to sort of leave open. But you could just about create little twirly bits everywhere. This is going to go all the way on the top of the back. This whole section is pretty much blocked in with a color. So you'll see if I put this over the top here, then you're going to see how it fits in with my drawing. Because these, I separated the prints into 4 prints so that I could transfer the image like that onto my drawing paper. As long as you leave some gaps, when we blend this in with solvent, we'll just make sure to leave some of these gaps open. And it will look like little pieces in between the tree. So the background's coming out through the branches. Okay, so now that we've got all the squiggles in, now we're going to look for clumpy bits that are very, very dark. So here's sort of a thicker branchy bit here. This is a thicker branchy bit here. This is one here. Should have gone all the way with the green. All the way through here. That's okay. Okay, now we're going to blend that with solvent. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use a round brush like this. So dip it in my solvent, dab off any excess, and then I'm gonna dab it on. Dab the solvent on. For this section, because it is blocked in, so you can just block it in with your brush. Still create sort of little textured marks with your brush. You'll just add to it. Alright, so this is a number 4 brush, round acrylic brush. So I may not have mentioned it in this tutorial, but usually just whatever brushes you have on hand. If you just have a set of brushes, all different sorts of sizes, then you sort of just pick the size as you go. You don't need a fancy brush. I mean, I even use cheap makeup brushes. a lot of the time as well. So make sure to leave some gaps. And if you don't want to use a big brush, you can still use a small brush for this. And just take your time with it. Go slow. See how simple that is, but it's starting to look like a tree. It's starting to look pretty realistic. Well, a realistic sort of silhouette against the aurora sky. Okay, let's use a bit of a smaller brush. So I'll use my number 2 round Jassard brush. And then you could create like little textured swirls. So the horn's going to come right against there, so it's okay if that looks a bit weird at the moment. See, look at that. That looks so cool. And then if you find some areas have just grayed out a bit too much, then just go back in with the black. And then when you add solvent to that, it will darken it up again. Oh, I love it. I think that looks pretty good. I mean, it looks like a silhouette tree, which is what we want. So that's why it's important to do the very back of the background first. Okay, then we want to do this tree here, but we need to put the purple in that background in first. But I'm wondering if maybe it's one of my dogs and their squeaky toy. Okay. Let's put some stars in. So I think for the stars I'm going to use a little bit of the titanium white powder. I'll show you how we use that. So I'm going to take a little, just a teeny little bottle cap of water, like that. And take a brush, so not the brushes I've been using for solvents, and it's going to be a brush that you use with water. So all you do is you take the cap, take a little bit of the powder, oopsie, just mess the powder in there, but just take, like, scoop a bit of the powder up with your brush. And then I just mess that water on there too. Let's try that. Okay, then take some of the water and mix up, put the water in the white powder. Okay, and then I'm going to take a real small brush and I want to add some stars. So some of them can be bigger stars, smaller stars. But just such a small detail like stars can give such a nice effect. Oopsie. If you make a mistake, just before it dries, rub it off quickly. This is usually something you do last. But I think I just got excited. I really wanted to. Oh, and if you even put some like close to the branches or between branches, it adds that extra depth to the image. I'm gonna just adds a bit extra. I love it. So this is a great highlighting little method to use, is when you use the textured white, the titanium white powder, sorry. Okay. Anyways, so that's, yes, that's usually something you add last, but I really wanted to put those stars in there. And I love the way the tree's turned out. The tree makes it look pretty realistic. Okay, let's do this part of the sky here. So I'll move that down a little. There we go. So we're going to work on this part of the sky so that we can get this tree in. And then we'll probably go for another hour. Let's go for another hour and then we'll call that part 2 of this tutorial. Right, so there's a very nice purple there. Let's go with this. So this says indigo blue, even though the color that you get really is quite a purpley sort of blue. So we're going to go indigo blue, number 139. Actually, what I'd like to do before I do that is I just want to put a light indication of the tree there so that I don't lose it. So I'll use my ivory black again. And I just want to sort of get a little outline of the tree. Just those main branches I don't want to lose. That's fine. Okay, that's all. That's enough information for me. Actually, no, we can do these ones here as well. Just do the sort of edges, because we're gonna have to go quite far in with the blues and that around these parts of the trees as well. And even around here. No. So let's just work on this top section, this section here, because that's quite far down the page, which we'll get to later. So we just want to get this tree in with its little background. Right, so now again with the indigo blue number 139. Yep, that's about enough. Then we want a purple. So let's use nice one. Violet number 120. We'll go over the blue that we put down, and then we just extend it a bit further. Then we have an even lighter purple. So we'll use some of the mauve 111. Goes down quite far. It's about there. And then I think let's add a little bit of the cobalt blue 160. And that's going to go in here. It's going to go along the side here, and then we'll stop there. Okay, so let's blend that in. I'm going to use my big brush again. I know it's getting quite late for you guys, so I'll probably end this soon. I think what I'll do is I will do this and the tree, and then we'll finish up for part 2. So we've already been going for an hour and a half, so I think 2 hours is a nice amount of time. Okay, so let's go from the bottom here upwards. You'll see the black that we put down for the tree will pop out, so that's going to be nice for later. That's a beautiful transition of colors. I love that. So I think I'd like to come back in with that light purple. So mauve 111. Go back over this area here. and then blend that with solvent. Pretty much had enough left on my brush to work with. Beautiful, I really like that. Look how bright that is, that looks amazing. There's some of this purple in here. Just gonna add a little bit of that purple right here. Look at that. Subtle but effective. Okay. Now let's do this tree and then we can add some stars. So let's do ivory black for 96. Okay, so using the ivory black, number 496. Okay. Now I'm paying attention to my branches. Something you can do if you just want to make it a little bit easier for you is take your white pencil and then just put the outer outline of the horn back in. So like, I just want this outer outline back. I'm just going to use the white and put it back. There we go. And you know where to end with your branches. it's starting to look pretty cool. I love creating the tree backgrounds. I mean, the tree like silhouettes. It just, the effect is so pretty, and then when you add the stars, it really is nice. You know, I've wanted to, this is actually my very first fantasy creation. Very first fantasy art drawing. So I'm very pleased. I haven't actually tried something like this before, now that I'm thinking about it properly. I've always wanted to, so being able to incorporate it as part of a sort of, as part of the subscription makes me do it, and then, yeah, it's good. I end up doing the things that I've been wanting to do. And I'm very quite pleased with how this is turning out. Sharpen that. Thank you, Diane. Yes, really my first fantasy art piece. I've just been doing realism for that long that I haven't actually really tried to play around and create my own thing. So still realism, but you know, still realism but surreal. It's fantasy art. Realistic fantasy art. So yeah, it's been something I've always wanted to do, but I just didn't do it. Thank you, Maureen. So am I. I am also very happy that I get to do this one. That's also partly why I didn't give you guys my fantasy art reference, but I gave you all the references to make this up so that you guys can sort of change it in your own unique way. And then at least I'm still keeping this one sort of like a copyright artwork for myself, because with all the other realism ones, anyone can draw it and it's fine. But now this one, because I've designed it myself, I sort of feel a sense of protection over it in a way. So I'll show you guys how to create your own fantasy art references, but I won't give you guys the reference to do my fantasy art references, if that makes sense. But I don't think you guys would want to anyways. You'd want to create your own. You just need to know how, and that's what I'm showing. Okay, let's blend that in. So I'm going to use the little brush for this, so number 2 brush. I'm just going to dab for all the real small leafy areas. I want to keep the background in between, but I still want to remove the texture of the paper, so that's why I'm blending with the solvent. Okay guys, someone's here. Alright, I'm going to end the stream here. All I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this tree and add a few more stars like I did before. And that is going to be it for part 2. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. You guys can go to bed now. I know it's really late for a lot of you. And I'll see you guys tomorrow when I do the tips and tricks video on how to get your values right. So thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!